And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy. We have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. And just like the old days, I'm joined by Trekker Prize. Yay! Hello,
Yay!
Trekker Prize.
Hello, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. I was really excited when this episode came on the list. I was like, oh crap, it's a Lwaxana Troi episode. Gary
I
Gary is
almost,
not gonna be
I
able to
almost
resist.
broke up, and then I was like, "Oh my God, no! We have to talk about this episode. This is." I was laughing so much. I had so much joy watching this episode again.
It's such a cool episode. I can't wait to talk about it. Hey, do you want to do the summary today, or
I
are you
can,
prepared to?
I can.
Oh, good.
I'm not prepared. Finally, thoroughly. But I watched the episode. I had loads of notes, and yeah, I can. I think I can dive into the
I
episode
love it.
description.
I'm glad. As you know, we're nearing we're getting close to like 150 episodes of Starfleet Boy, and so I've
Not to
done a
mention
lot of summary.
200 subscribers as well in YouTube. So,
Oh, I
oh
know.
my,
I'm excited about the 200
really,
subscribers.
really.
Thank you. It's a huge milestone considering the format of the show. Everyone's always baffled that I have a long form discussion going on, but it's my favorite
I know
way to
that
talk about Star
happened a
Trek.
lot because when I joined Starfleet Boy as a third person, I
Welcome to
remember
Starfleet.
I remember
Sorry.
you had like between 30 and 60 followers on YouTube.
Yeah, I
I
think the
think.
initial my initial subscribers were my family and friends who I forced to to join the channel.
But no,
So
it was a really big step.
that was really
I'm
cool.
really
Yeah.
happy for Starfleet Boy.
I just I think I know this is the kind of stuff that some folks are like, just get on with the discussion, but I just want to take a
So
moment.
I do apologize for everyone.
I love those comments because I know how they feel. I'm like, yeah, I know. But if you listen to it on podcast, you can hit ×2 and we go really fast and you can still understand everything we say. It's pretty
I
cool.
did listen to a podcast today, just while I was doing some home stuff, and 15. It's a Star Trek podcast. I'm not gonna say the podcast name because they're gonna be offended, but it's really awesome. It's really awesome. It's a really good podcast. But the first 5-10 minutes was just purely them, like every single episode, like what they do, how they do, not going into the subject itself. So
I
hours
know. I know
before,
that we do the
hours
same.
before.
That's our podcast. That's You were listening to our podcast. That's what we do. That's how Starfleet Boy gets started. But you know what? It's all right because part of this journey is also a chronicle for me of my life, and it's a good old life aboard my imaginary Starship Enterprise. So I don't mind when I'm an old man. I can listen to these tapes. They're not really tapes, but I like to imagine.
Maybe that's gonna be
Actually,
a show about, he's finding out like, oh my God, I used to be an explorer, now I'm not. Now I'm a retired old man.
I am so excited. That's the only show I'm excited for in my whole life. I'm not excited for Game of Thrones anymore. I'm not excited for the Expanse. Well, okay, the Expanse is pretty cool, but the Captain Picard show is what I'm living for right now, and so
Well, in
yeah, I
today's
can't wait.
episode, we're going to talk about Captain Picard as well.
Yeah, today is a good episode.
Is
But
he in
yeah,
it?
what I want really quickly before we go right into it. What I want to say is thank you so much to the community. And Gary, you're my first friend from the from the Star Trek community who I've never met to this day. So thank you so much for being my friend and like being so nice. And I want to just quickly promote at the beginning. We usually do these things at the end, but creativetrekkie.com is where everyone needs to go and pass this information along because Gary's offering his services to the world at large. Previously, now I know I have to I'm gonna have to hustle for my images because you're gonna get lots of business and so
So, do I have to pay
creative.
for this commercial?
What's that?
Do I have to pay for this commercial?
Don't worry, I'm very happy with my branding. You've done a great job. So I will endorse you forever. So yes, everyone go check out Gary. Now that I've embarrassed you thoroughly, why don't you go ahead and give the summary?
So the episode itself, 20th episode of season 5, Cost of Living, which we get to see returning Lwaxana Troi, the fantastic Majel Barrett, who is my ultimate favorite of every Star Trek character for sure.
Can we just call her the mother of Star Trek? Because
The
that's like
mother
what
of
she is.
Star Trek.
She
I
is the
think not.
mother of Star Trek, right?
She's being called the first lady of Star Trek.
I know, because she didn't invent it, but she's married to the inventor. I'm thinking of her as my mother too.
Yeah. She was with us at the very beginning, so from the
She
cage.
was number number 1, yeah, which is exciting.
Yeah. So yeah,
Number
episode
1.
Cost of Living. The episode starts out with the Enterprise in a really tense situation, trying to destroy an asteroid that's going to hit a planet, which I too forget the name now, but it doesn't really matter because it wasn't really significant.
I don't remember the name either.
Maybe Talon or Talos something.
If it was Talos,
no,
it'd
it
be
wasn't
cool.
Talos.
Okay.
But as I mentioned, it wasn't really significant. We're going to talk about that because I had some remarks on that.
Okay.
So the asteroid got destroyed, and some mysterious dust goes into the Enterprise. At the beginning, unnoticed, but obviously later on we find out there was some parasites in that dust that went into the ship and started to eat the nitronium.
Nitrium, yeah, you're right. It was like and I want to, since we interrupted your summary, I want to say that the sparkly liquidy and like parasite was a cool effect. I like that. That's
it's like almost fairy dust in a
good
cake.
job 1990s. Good job 1990s special effects remastered.
So that's basically how it starts and how this plot goes into the episode. And because this episode is very interesting, they have two plots. They have the space dust parasites. They threaten the ship, and they actually almost end up destroying the ship. But obviously, Captain Picard and Data saves the day as always. They get rid of the parasites by the end of the episode. And plot B, which is the most endearing part of this episode, as we start out with Worf and Alexander in Deanna Troi's counseling office, and they have some problems. Now, Deanna Troi encourages Alexander and Worf to be reasonable with each other and respect each other, and tells Alexander to actually look up to his father because he's just want to him good, and maybe you don't understand now, but you will get it. And then Diana gets a message that her mom is coming on board with a fantastic news that she's going to get married to a person who she never met, just online.
It's basically online. You're right. It's AOL dating.
So we end up watching a sort of struggle between Worf and Alexander, and also a very funny and almost really sad phase of Lwaxana Troi as well. You're going through her situation and going through her life, what she's dealing with at that point of her life, marrying to this person who she never met in person. And obviously, when the person this minister Campio comes on board to actually have their marriage sealed in the Enterprise by Captain Picard for special request, Lwaxana does not feel herself really comfortable after meeting the person, after Minister Campio, in a very personal level. So she decides to marry him in a very Betazoid traditional way. Shows in the mess hall, in the temp forward, bare naked, as a Betazoid should do. And
this is the part in the show, Gary, where we have to take our clothes off to
Oh wait,
no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
no, I don't think that's YouTube.
YouTube's not ready for that. No, not me
No,
neither. I'm not
not
ready
to
to show
mention our
you
audience.
YouTube.
It would totally lost
Look,
all of our audience
this
for
is awesome.
that minute.
Like I'm wearing my uniform. You're not. You're
I'm not, but
you're
I am
not
with
in
that.
uniform. Just kidding, teasing. Go, go, go. We're almost home.
So so basically that's the Lwaxana's journey ends up breaking up with this guy who disappears when she's from the Enterprise, and they all having a mud bath at the very end of the episode where they basically conclude that you're a grown up, you should follow your rules, but not every often, but not all the time, because every now and then you should break your rules and live and enjoy life how it is. So the episode itself, basically, we did two plots.
I think you nailed it. That's it. But I only disagreed with one part of your summary.
Oh
I
my god.
think that the Lwaxana Troi story is plot A, and that the Parasite is actually plot B. That's the only thing I would change.
I mean, yeah.
But
I
no,
mean, there's
no,
obviously, but you have a plot A and a plot B. That doesn't necessarily
yeah.
plot A over arches the
But
plot
what
B.
I think that's wonderful about this episode is because I do remember when I was like a 15-year-old watching this episode, the science stuff was like really cool, and I wasn't interested at all in the relationship between Alexander and Lwaxana and Worf. I was just like, oh, this is like, I loved this episode because I loved Majel Barrett and watching her perform. But at the same time, when I remember as a 15-year-old, I was probably very annoyed by all the family stuff. And the doctor even more than if I was annoyed, he was like, I hate this episode. But now watching it as an adult, I was really super drawn into the family drama. It was like everything. That was like everything for me. And so I was like, it's a totally weird thing to shift your perspective like that. And it's part of this episode. As you get older,
Yeah,
you cannot lose your joy.
a bit. Yeah. No, it's an absolutely fantastic episode, and I couldn't help myself. Like every time a Major was on screen, I was like, oh my god! I'm just feeling so sad that I did not have the chance to actually meet her, because I'm pretty sure she was an
Yeah.
amazing woman. Not
I
just
think that, and I think I appreciate the young boy. I think Brian Bonsall is his name, who plays
yeah.
Alexander. Actually, for such a young actor, he's doing a really great job, and you see him kind of flex his performance muscles in this episode more because he really showed a lot of depth, I think, and like seemed like he was really involved with. I bet you, like, I would love to hear stories from this filming because I bet you like there were some really nice moments of teaching for this kid from like all the actors, but Majel Barrett specifically, I think she's a very accomplished performer, and so I can only imagine how nice that was for him as
And I
a
think
performer too.
especially because I'm not sure how Roddenberry was, how young he was back then when Next Generation was in season 5, but even for Majel, I'm pretty sure there was an even more special connection with Alexander and with the Alexander and Lwaxana bonding in this episode.
Well, one imagines, but I have no researchers available to me, so except actually I do get a lot of post episode research from both William Peck, who has either a vast brain of knowledge of Star Trek. He's really good at Googling, and also Christopher Collins, who I have to say thank you really quickly because he posted a video where William Shatner is basically being uh, like instructed by a director how to how to do the audio for a commercial, and it's terrible. And
Oh,
so,
I remember
have
that.
you heard this? It's so
Yeah.
good. He's like, I'm gonna do it the way you want me to do it. It's really, really funny. Um, but yeah, that was something. So thank you to those two, because they are post episode researchers and they do an amazing job. But and Database One, who is with me right now.
Yeah, we still have to, buffer. I'm still buffering, so.
Even if you don't do any work, you still have the title because you're my friend, and whoever actually does the work will be Database Two. So don't worry, it's not a
Oh,
pressure. It's not like a pressure kind of job.
no, I do have a concept for database one, but we'll talk about that later. Now,
All
I
right,
think you
cool.
should go back to the episode.
Yes,
How
fine.
about
Thank you
that?
for keeping me on track. But well, we were talking about the episode, and it led us to talk about the wonderful Majel Barrett. But yeah, I was focused 100% on that story. I thought that now, as an adult, also that the reason I argue that the other plot becomes the B plot is that it just seemed like a simple Star Trek story. Like this time around, like it's always the same thing where like something is crippling the ship's about to explode, and the crew have to save it, and they always do in 45 minutes. They're all it's like and then
Yeah,
not only that, what the thing that seemed weird, the only critique I have about this episode is that like I don't remember the minister or Lwaxana reacting to the ship like having all problems, like especially like when the life support goes out. Like it seems like they're not affected. Like whatever decks they're on, Picard's like, just make sure Lwaxana doesn't notice like, that anything's happening. I don't want her coming up to the bridge. Like, divert all life support to Lwaxana wherever she is. Make sure the stabilizers are working overtime.
wow.
It just didn't seem like they were in the same ship, if you get my meaning. There weren't
No, no,
any
I
scenes
totally
like
get it.
that.
But I think even though you said that like plot B, plot A, and then plot B, the Lwaxana story is more overarching the actual sciencey stuff. Now I think about it, I don't really see the point of um, having the sciencey stuff in, because if they worth doing an episode just on the sciencey stuff, they could have gone into more deeply in the subject, and obviously they could have done a single episode on Lwaxana Troi plus some other bits and pieces here. Like I would have been interested to see more on more on Worf and Alexander's situation, like more into their life, or even
Yeah.
more conversation with Lwaxana and Diana. So it would have been nice to see some more interesting insights for their lives. So they could have done this episode in 2 episodes if they really wanted to.
Yeah, and I thought it was really powerful to see the relationship between Worf, Alexander, and Counselor Troy at this point in the series, because it changes later on, as we know. But like, there's a lot of frustration that Worf is feeling towards Alexander, and I think it's interesting because here comes Lwaxana, and she just kind of like heals this family, and I thought that might have been a great story just if they
Yeah,
went deeper. But as we've talked about a lot on the show, like you got to judge TNG uh in its time a little bit, because it's surprising, but in 30 years a lot has changed in terms of how humans just view these things in general, so I don't
yeah,
know, like my childhood was very wild and free compared to some of the childhoods that I see today, and I think that's what like kind of you see represented here. Some of the things that I took note of, and I was curious if you noticed this too, is like uh, from a world building perspective, did it seems like there's a whole planet of just there's a lot of these whole planets that are just devoted to relaxation or pleasure or whatever. So it's like
yeah.
you can imagine that in the 24th century, Disney World has a whole planet, like that, something like this. Yeah, so it's like Planet Disney, and that's what it felt like. The hologram program, I think Lwaxana called
Mhm.
up, it was some colony on a planet of free thinkers. That's what she was saying.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to see that we kind of traveled to this colony in a way, and we don't really see this often on TNG, but it was a really weird place. It's like there wasn't a war going on there. There's not like a political problem or anything like that. And people just kind of, it seems like a circus planet, you know, like, but I don't know. What did you think of the the holodeck stuff, like all those scenes?
The idea itself is brilliant, I think. Just as you mentioned, you have resort planets, like you had the shore leave planet in DOS, and you have the Risa in DS9, or even in TNG at some point. I think TNG, of course, Risa. So having this planet that you can just go and just talk, do philosophy or paint or whatever you want to do, just whatever you want to do, really. It's a brilliant thing, and having a little insight of this little place that we got to see in the holodeck. I wish we seen more often.
Yeah, I would say so too. Like, yeah. Um, I
But
wish
also,
that
and
the
not just that, the creatures as well. Loads of the creatures look like they are from different planets, or maybe from the
yeah,
same planet, but maybe the different races. They got
I think that's definitely true
moved.
because I think that's definitely true because she said it's a colony of free thinkers, so like it makes sense that it could be like all kinds of different species, but we have no idea what they are. There's the juggler guy who's like got a cool. He looks like he's from the like um uh what is it, the Gamma Quadrant maybe, or something like that.
Yeah,
But he could be
yeah,
from
yeah.
anywhere. Then you have the kind of like the arguing
Bobbleheads.
brother or sister with the crazy hair, and then
You
you
know the
have the
fire
guy who,
sculptor. The fire
what's
sculptor.
that?
There's a girl, fire
Oh yeah,
sculptor.
there's fire sculptor. There
She
was the
looked like she
very
came from Babylon 5.
it's true. There's the very interesting dancer who we get a butt shot of in
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
episode, which I
That's a very good makeup there.
oh, Star Trek. I mean, that was an interesting outfit also because like there's really not much left to the imagination. So I was very impressed that they got things like that past the censors. But I did also like that how TNG just handles nudity in a casual kind of way in this episode, because here in America we're very much like the minister that came to the ship when it comes to sexuality and sensuality and nudity and things like that. We come from the Puritans who are very like, you know, rigid about their beliefs. So I
Almost like showing too much cleavage there. And I was like, please don't.
but what but you grew up European, and we always have this idea that Europeans are not as conservative. Do you think that's true, or do you are you more like a beta Z in your in your
Well,
relationship with nudity?
that's very personal.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
no, it's
That's
it's not.
another problem in America. We ask very no, I'm just kidding. We're very personal in America in other ways.
I see.
Sorry.
No, if you, but I think it's. I mean, talking about nudity, or are we talking about showing too much?
Well, just like nudity in general, I thought like Alexander has no issues with it. But if I were a kid when I was a kid growing up here, I would have been like really embarrassed. And I thought that was cool. Like, I think that shows a future where like humans have kind of evolved past this like these
Yeah,
like kind
the
of associations
24th
with
century.
nudity and sexuality. Like we have unfortunately, like a lot of my conditioning growing up was that like nudity equals sexuality, and that doesn't those two things are not, we know as we grow older and get more
Yeah.
comfortable that these two things are not relevant. And so it's like interesting that like Alexander as a child is totally unaffected by new. In fact, when she walks in at the the wedding. He's just like, "Hey, awesome!" Like you're like.
No,
Perhaps
you.
I grew up in a much
Hmm.
more conservative environment than you
No,
did.
I don't know. I think I grew up in a more conservative
Oh, gotcha.
environment as well. So I don't. I think nudity itself is in the same level in Europe than in the US.
Oh,
Um,
okay. We're told growing up, we're told all these stereotypes, and like kind of like ideas about Europe being so advanced. So
no, I mean, there's a few things, but no, don't go that way. We just said Brexit. Come on, that's a very unorthodox.
yeah, it's
um,
no but there's crazy things going on all over the world, and we
oh yeah,
have to just
keep
keep
it
fighting the
together.
good fight.
Yeah. No, but it's even that when Lwaxana shows up in Time Forward, total naked. I mean, obviously she wasn't naked because if you've seen the video, actually she was wearing something. Obviously,
Oh, of course. No, of course, yes, on set.
yeah,
But the
like
idea,
she wouldn't
the
show herself
character.
off. Obviously, the character itself was
Yeah,
naked, but
Majel was not naked, but Lwaxana is fully nude when she walks into 10 forward in this episode.
but
She gives
if you remember, and
zero
if you
Fs.
remember the scene, obviously we got a really interesting look from Mr. Hom, who was like,
He
"Yeah,
was so
you rock,
happy.
baby," you know.
What I liked about that scene is that they took time to like get everyone's reaction, and you could tell Mr. Home was like super happy for her. He was
Yeah,
like, since he's her valet, like I get the impression that like he must see her,
all the
go
time.
through
Yeah.
her worst times. So to see her happy made him happy. I loved Counselor Troy's reaction, Commander
Yeah.
Riker's reaction. Like it's like really good. He was really like, "Hey."
Do you? And I'm pretty sure you remember at the first conversation with Lwaxana and Diana when they were in Laxana's quarters that Lwaxana was like, "Oh, wedding gown." It's like wedding gown. You're not gonna
Yeah,
dress. You're not gonna marry naked. That's from
yeah, it's
Diana. And I was
true.
like, "Wow, that's something." I did not notice that before. Like Diana was like so patriotic about being a beta that like you're not gonna be naked.
but even
Wow.
but even Counselor Troy changes her mind. She doesn't, if I recall, she doesn't marry Commander Riker in the nude. She's wearing a or what?
Well, she did not in Earth, but there's gonna be a Betazoid wedding, or there's
Oh,
supposed
this
to be
is
a
true. That's
Betazoid
right.
wedding in
That's
Beta.
right. And that's right. That's a point of conversation in there. Sorry, I forgot about that. You're right. Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
naked weddings.
even Mr. Worf was like even they said Mr. Worf like, hey, you feel like a big giant warrior. You don't have anything to afraid of.
Yeah, it's true.
Nudity is not a problem.
Um, do you- do you think that like I think that what's sad is that up until this point, Alexander seemed to be growing up very joyless. Like Worf just is not a very fun dad. Like he's very serious, right? So poor Alexander, he's not having the most fun time at this point.
I think there was a very important part and sort of message as well in this episode that came together with the second interaction between Alexander and Lwaxana when Lwaxana was trying up her wedding dress and stuff with white hair and everything, and Alexander walks in and they basically started to talk about like, okay, why do you marry this person? And then Lwaxana says, okay, because when you grow old, you don't really have too much option, and you don't really want to stay alone. And I think, and that's Alexander just said that he misses her mom, he misses his mom. God phrases. Um, so basically, both of them were dealing with some sort of really sad feeling of being alone. Because I'm pretty sure Alexander was, he had not had a good, he had not, didn't have a good time with his father, and Lwaxana did not have anyone to have around herself. So it's really interesting to have the two soul basically connects in a sense, and
Yeah,
it's
it's very. I think
really
it's a
dark.
very lucky. A lucky thing, yeah, for Alexander, because I think like his relationship will change. I really like the dinner scene when he's having a conversation with his father, and Worf doesn't give children credit. um Worf, like many adults, don't give children enough credit about how much they can, what their capacity for understanding actually is, because he's telling Alexander he has to eat his dinner, but then he's also telling him that he has to keep his promises. And like, so this is
Yeah,
like
that's
a real
you
conflict,
can
you know.
do
This
after lunch, after dinner, like dinner time. Like he's very strict as a father, for sure.
yeah. But you could see he also has a lot of anger because he holds it back, which is very admirable for I think that shows how much he loves his son. But when Alexander leaves the room, he like breaks the he breaks the like
What?
the vegetable, like he just like crushes it or whatever. And I was like, man, Worf, like chill out. You need to go to the holodeck too. And I thought the ending was funny too because they're all sitting in the mud bath together, which is also very nice because it's kind of like showing this relationship is going to lead to more for Worf with Deanna, and you can see like that little dynamic there with mother-in-law, mother, and future boyfriend,
Yeah.
like, and Alexander. So there's like a family of sorts, not official, but like a family is taking place here around Alexander. And I think this is his first time having a family because up until now, he's only been with his father and he's dealing with his mother's death. So I really like, there's not like, I don't know if the show really did this intentionally, but it turns out that there's actually a really nice continuity and tie-in, I thought, here with Alexander's greater story, like his importance on the show. I also like the little touches. I think this brings Lwaxana calls him her little warrior, and she tells in that one scene, and she tells him how like uh she once had a friend or was with a man named Alexander who was a great warrior, and you think of her adventures sort of like if they ever did. I'm sure there's lots of books about Lwaxana Troi. I wish I had time to read them all, but uh, but I imagine that there's these stories that you can tell about her character, which are pretty neat. So yeah, I like that. A lot of world building in those moments. So imagine like a whole episode. I wonder if they could fill up. It was already so dense. I thought in the moments that they had, they put a lot of information in there, which was cool.
No, absolutely. And I was thinking through the episode, like, she touches on a lot of things. She touches on friendship. She touches on childhood. This is a perfect episode for parents, basically,
Yeah,
to figure out, like, yes, okay, you have a kid, but even though he or she is not behaving the way how you would like it, but you have to, and then you have Lwaxana side that it's like, okay, embrace it. You have to be fun. You don't have to just, as Lwaxana said, life's full capacity is enjoyment,
it's true. It's true. And I think
which is
also that
absolutely
I
valid.
I think this is also a concept that was very important at this time. I remember there was kind of like an epidemic of when I was little. There was, on the news, you always saw stories about single parents and how difficult it was to raise your children as a single parent. And what I found is that that was what this episode teaches you in a sense is that like if you don't have a big enough family or a family around you, don't be afraid to reach out and rely on your friends. Like Worf has to learn that like you can't raise Alexander all by yourself. Like he needs Counselor Troy's help, Commander Riker's help, like any adult that's willing to help you in your life, you should embrace them, and try to make sure you align yourself with adults that have your same beliefs, like so, and help also introduce the kids to other beliefs, which is cool. So
Yeah,
that's an important thing. I think it takes a village, as Hillary Clinton, I think, coined back then, which was one of the the kind of like messages that were going out. And I do think that that's true, and it doesn't hurt because it builds community, and all these good things come from getting help. That's
absolutely.
my PSA to single parents out there. Like, you don't have to be alone.
Not at all. It's better to be alone and have friends who's helping you because they love you than someone who's not, you know, someone who's with you but doesn't really care much.
This is true. This is true. That's the ultimate message. And so Lwaxana actually like wins out at the end. She doesn't marry the minister. We didn't talk about the the minister, but did you think he was like do you think he was two-dimensional, or did you like the character at all, or did you understand the character?
I don't really have too much like liking and disliking with this character. He was kind of, well, not pointless, obviously, because he was her love love you know love string. But I don't know. He left quite a little impression in me. He was
Yeah, I
not
liked some
really,
of
I remember her. I remember this character as Lwaxana's love story at one point, but there's nothing else.
I didn't even remember if she actually married him or not. I
Oh,
totally had forgotten. So I was actually kind of I knew the show was heading in that direction, but like the episode was heading in that direction, but I wondered for a moment, like, I forget, does she actually marry him when I was watching it? And so it was cool to rewatch. I again, I don't think I appreciated this episode at all when I was a child because it was too much. I think that's the other thing, is that like it's interesting, even though the kind of the main theme is Alexander, he's a little kid. The episode really is more useful for adults, I think, in
yeah.
terms of teaching them how to raise families, raise to build families and all that good stuff. That's all I've got in my notes.
Really? There's a lot of things actually to I mean,
but I,
lots of
but I
small
have.
things, obviously, but there's a
Let's go
lot.
through your notes.
Okay, so
I just I focused on all the touchy feely stuff, I guess.
I think my list of things basically is just really. I was watching the episode and I was scribbling down some bits and pieces that I really found exciting and interesting, or even like why that happened. Very first scene before the intro, tense moment in the bridge. They chasing this asteroid that going to collide with this planet and kill everything in there. So that act. So Captain Picard basically did all the calculation, all the math. He gave the orders to everyone. They executed the orders, and then well done, everyone.
Right.
What? You just did everything. Like, what about the well done, everyone? Like,
But Gary,
I mean,
it was a very simple mission. It was not that hard.
I was kind of baffled about the fact that that they destroyed this asteroid. The core of the asteroid still was, colliding with this planet, and then let's just use the tractor beam and this deflector dish to actually destroy the rest. Why didn't they do that?
It's true. The opening scene was really exciting, I have to say. Like it was even though it was like the special effects, the way it was cut wasn't as good as like today. Like, even DS9 later on does a like cooler dynamic shots, or whatever, more cinematic shots, if you will. But I got excited in the beginning there. I guess to me, like the thing that was like amusing about that was like the slime everywhere. That was cool. Like, like things breaking down, just another parasite. It's like, I guess I feel like, oh wow, space is like so dangerous to work in. Like,
I think it's almost like a submarine in the sea. You contend. You're in that small space, let's say, and then whatever happens outside you won't be able to do anything. I mean, where you go? You can't just go out in space or out in sea or whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, now I was pretty attentive during the rewatch, but I am correct, right? I didn't notice any scene that tied this like disaster in with the story, like with Lwaxana, right? Like she never even comments, right? She doesn't even say like
They didn't even notice like each other. Like
yeah, like
I was
she doesn't.
I missed a remark from Lwaxana to Captain Picard, like, "Hey, next time you should watch out your ship when I'm here."
Right, yeah, like she didn't even say anything, right? Like there was no acknowledgement of the incident. Even Worf goes from, he doesn't even mention to his son, like his son's like at dinner, he's not like, "Dad, why is the ship shaking and why are the lights turning off and things like that. There was one thing I remember now. I forgot. The holodeck starts to unravel when Alexander is
But that's it.
with her. That's
Okay,
no, but
okay.
like
So
no,
that
okay,
can be
no.
yeah.
It's clear that my attention departed because I do remember that scene now. So yes, okay,
But I do like your explanation when you said like, okay, they just don't want to know Lwaxana. They don't want Lwaxana in the bridge. Like, hey, what's going on here? You know.
I stand by my but Picard was like, "Oh, don't let that woman come to the bridge."
But yeah, this is the other thing.
I don't care if other people die. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
But you know that's
I
the most.
must be drawn here. No further. Get off my bridge.
Turbo lift. No,
I have
and
to
this is
do every it's like Picard Tourette's. I have to do it every episode. Sorry.
this is one of the most interesting scene as well, because we know the old fans we love. I mean, personally, I do love when she interacts with Captain Picard, because we know how much Captain Picard loves Lwaxana. Loves Lwaxana. And in this case, it's like, oh, I don't understand why this woman comes to the Enterprise and how she feels like this. She has authority to use my ship because her daughter works here. And then
Yeah,
Riker,
true.
Riker tells him like, hey, actually, she wants you to, you know, give away to this guy. And it's like, oh, I will be happy to do that.
Right.
So it's
That's
like even Captain Picard, like, you know what? There's a chance actually to get rid of her. She will
it's
take it, which is a bit bad if you think about it, because he always like, getting away from her for every single time. Like even in the Ferengi episode, um, forgot the title, but when they got kidnapped by the Ferengi Daemon Tug, and then
right.
they have to go back to Beta Z, warp 9. Like maximum warp. I
It's
don't want her for so long here.
it's
It's
so
it's
true.
it's really cool, but it's adorable because obviously he doesn't do it because of he hates her. He loves her as much as Worf loves Data's cat. But that's a bad example, but you get my point.
No, I think at this point he's fond of he thinks he has feelings of friendship for Lwaxana for sure. I think they passed that they crossed that bridge already. Sadly, there's only going to be one more appearance on TNG by Majel Barrett, and that's in season 7, The
Oh yeah.
Dark Page. But she does appear 3 times on Deep Space Nine, which is cool. And I think she passed away shortly after one of those appearances. I'm not sure. I know she passed away.
She
She has
passed away.
departed.
She still did the 2009 Star Trek movie as a voice for the computer,
Oh, that's right. So she was
and then I
still
think
around.
that was her last appearance. She was still
Okay.
around in 2009. I think she died shortly after the 11th movie.
I think it's cool how Star Trek influences humanity, period, us, because there's several people working on a project which will allow you to change your computer interface voice or your phone's interface voice to the voice of the TNG version of the computer. Um, and so I think that's cool because her legacy in a very real way will always live with humanity. I know that if I'm a Star Trek fan and I'm like a contractor in charge of the very first spaceship that humans build, I'm going to make sure the computer's voice is that of Majel Barrett. So I think that I hope that that continues to be a tradition among engineers and designers and scientists and is to take these little bits of Star Trek and make them into reality, which is a cool idea.
Because that's
Yeah.
basically would be the perfect, you know, homage to pay, not just to Major, but for the whole genre.
Yeah,
For sure.
absolutely.
You know the
But
funny thing.
space it Space is a dangerous place. We learned that so much on Star Trek. It's like but there's never a moment of rest for the crew of the Enterprise. There's always going to be something.
True. But the fantastic thing is, I don't know if you ever thought about that. Lwaxana interacts with the computer, in the ship's computer, a few times.
Oh yeah, to the
And
holodeck, it's her
she's
interacting with
basically
herself.
talking to herself. Have anyone noticed that before? I mean, the two women, the computer and Lwaxana has the same voice. No one actually noticed that in the series. I mean, in terms of the characters,
It's
because
but
obviously
it's
actors do it,
Lwaxana. But you could tell when she does the computer voice, the actress, Majel Barrett, it's like a more serious, like, very like kind of, professional tone. And Lwaxana sings kind of, she's like a singer's, singy voice. She's like, darling. I hope the computer never, I hope the computer never says, yes, darling. I'll let you in now. Honey, your tea is ready. What?
Gosh, you know what? That scene with the replicator,
Mr.
that was
LaForge, the computer sounds like Lwaxana Troi.
it's like, get her out from my computer. But that scene in the replicator when she orders tea and then she was like pushing the button, was like, no, this replicator doesn't work. What the hell is wrong with this machine? And then
Yeah.
the tea comes out with lots of sausages in there, and she's still ridiculous in a sense that she takes them out and then she's still like, whatever. She just drinks it.
Yeah, I love that. That's the kind of ridiculousness I enjoy as well.
You know,
um,
I do have to give a little credit to Mr. Home as well. I mean, he did not do too much in this episode, but he was there, obviously. But those little moments that he had when Alexander came in came to the door, and then he looked that up, Mr. Home, and Mr. Home was like,
yeah, but it was
doing the eyebrow
also
raise,
the scene right
and then
before that.
again as well.
The scene right before that's really nice too, where he's like adjusting her wedding gown,
Yeah.
which was cool. Um, I was gonna say that I think for me the winner of this episode is Data, because even though Picard, like you said, was doing everything at the very end when the life support is about to go out, or go to minimum, he tells Data, he's like, we're gonna pass out, and when we do, it's up to you to do it. And so thank goodness the Data doesn't have to breathe air, right? Like he just works.
Yeah, and I think and then that's the other thing. From the makeup department, I did notice that by everyone was sweating in the bridge, and everywhere. He kind of he was not a drop of tear, nothing,
Yeah,
not
it
a
was
drop,
very well done.
nothing. Very well done. I'm not sure if they kept him in a air conditioned environment in that place, or they just sprayed everyone else, but very well executed.
I've been on the set of a few movies, and I can tell you right now that the spray bottle is how they do the sweat. All so the environment probably didn't change. And I know that like it's actually very hot on those old sets because they used really bright lights to light the set. So scenes were always I would love to have been around to just understand those things, like how is the environment kept, how do you keep your actors from sweating. That's a really good that's a really
And
good
did you notice when they reached the asteroid field, Data engaged the tractor beam and the parasites left the ship, and then the ship, the light behind Data in the bridge, just like gradually came back to normal level. So it wasn't like
yeah
everything is back to normal now. It's like gradually, like a sunrise or something. It was beautiful, as a
yeah pretty cool.
cinematography way talking.
Well, not just that, it's nice to see like elements of how how the ship functions, period. Like there's all kinds of cues that let you know as a human or as an alien aboard the ship, like what the status of the ship is. You know what I mean? Like, which is great. Like the ship actually dims lights because it's diverting power from any system straight to the life support system. So it's kind of cool that it like only keeps the minimum amount necessary going.
And
And
did you?
data, and you have data.
Yeah. Did you notice
Space
there
is
was
dangerous,
a
but if
little?
you have data, if you have data in your life,
If you have data in your life, you don't need anything else, for sure.
I wonder if Star Trek, you know, which predicts so many things about the future, will be right about androids. Do you think that like uh data, like this is, 300 years more plus into the future, and data is the only sentient, example of artificial intelligence in as a life form. But do you think that like our robotics experts at MIT will crack that puzzle in our lifetimes?
Well, we do have devices with operated by Android, so it is an Android, but it's not as we know it. No, I do hope, in a sense, that we're going to have not like as many, because we did talk about this in, I mean, maybe not we, but Star Trek TNG talked about this in the episode Measure of a Man, that if you have like too many, then that end up having an army of slaves that they can do whatever you don't want to do. Um, but I hope we're gonna get to the point when we're gonna have some unique life forms that like data, and they can contribute to humanity as well, and they can
Absolutely.
live on for such a long time, and they can carry on doing contributing to get more knowledge to the humanity itself. Like basically, we could have a data as well. If we would have one data, that would be unique. But as we got to know from Measure of a Man, we don't want to create a slave race for sure.
Absolutely not. Um, it's
But unfortunately, these days everything is just like quantity, quantity, quantity. You don't doesn't really necessarily go into quality, just quantity. So
I think
it's
we're gonna get there. I think that the matter replicator is going to be something that we'll see, uh, because we already have 3D printers, and I have a feeling by the time you and I are in our old age, like that'll be really fast. Like you'll go to the store and request a 3D printed pair of socks, and it'll happen in 2 minutes. Right now, it takes like 1 week to make it, but it'll happen much faster and faster.
well, it will be really interesting to live in those times in the future. I mean, I hope there's not going to be any big catastrophe or something that not going to be allow us to live a normal life. But I would love to like going into the shop with any of you guys, and just like we are in the 80s and with the stick and everything, and just like telling the talking about these things like, oh, we did our podcast in the back in the day, and YouTube and algorithms and stuff, and they will like look at us like, what the hell are you talking about? You're old.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're gonna get definitely a lot of that, I think. But by then, hopefully, we'll have transferred our minds into robotic bodies that will allow us to be as nimble and active as like a 20-year-old.
Wow, so you want to be an
Who doesn't want to be an android? It's a dream come true.
android? Well, I don't even know if I want to be an android. No, I don't even know what would you be? What would you like to be from Star Trek if you would have a chance? Like any
I
creature, any alien, anything.
I think definitely, um, there, since we're going along with the themes of this episodes and going into our imaginations and finding a little joy, like
Yeah,
if I
that's
want.
always the case with
I don't
Starfleet,
think it's
right?
bad to be. I don't think it's bad to be a human in Star Trek kind of times, because if you live on Earth, it's basically like a utopian, you know, situation. Like there's no more money, no more homelessness, no more, all these things. So you can actually like just pursue your
Whatever
passions, if
you
you
want.
will.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to be a writer,
Whatever
yeah.
the work you do can be just about anything, and it doesn't matter, because the basic needs of everyone are taken care of, and that's technology that does that. Like people don't realize where that's coming from, but they don't. You don't need to be a laborer in the future, but you can be an artisan for sure. Then so I think I'd be a human, and obviously I would join Starfleet, and obviously I would serve aboard a ship, and I would love to captain a ship, but even if I'm a lieutenant in stellar cartography, I would be just chuffed. Whatever I'm doing on a starship will be fun for me. So ultimately, that would be my situation. But I would want to be an android if I could totally control the situation.
Did you notice?
What
This
about you?
episode.
What would wait?
Oh,
You have to answer the question too.
I I did think about that, but I have no idea. There's too many options. But I would probably end up being a human as well. I mean, I like loads of races, and like I would enjoy being around Ferengis, even though they are strange and greedy little people, but they're fun. I often, and I actually there was a long time when I wanted to be a trail, a joint
Oh,
trail.
neat. That's another, yeah. I mean, well, that's like an amazing existence to fathom or to contemplate, because
Yeah,
you're actually sharing a body with two distinct minds, which is fascinating.
you're almost like a Doctor Who, Time Lord figurine, if you think about
Yeah,
it.
it's true. It's true. Hey, there was something I was gonna ask you about on the episode. Oh, DST, you're fresh. You got to promote what you're doing if you want to, unless you don't want to give the audience the heads up right now for the
On DST.
yeah, like we're no, not DST.
Oh yeah, yeah, DST, fine.
That
I mean,
was
I can.
Rob. That was a DST. I forgot that you didn't go. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I just
Although,
imagined.
although I did have a conversation with him, and it will be out in my
That's
channel
right.
soon, probably today or tomorrow at some point. I mean, in
Ooh.
this time of this recording, today or tomorrow. Obviously, dear
That's
audience, if you listen to this podcast like a week after when I released it, then I do apologize. It's been out. It's gonna be out. It's already out.
I think it doesn't matter
Don't give
if you
people
tune
time away.
in a year when you say, "Hey, there's a discussion on my channel." People are gonna pause and then go straight to your channel
I mean,
and
that's
see if
how
it's
horrible
there.
I was as a host, and then you can't come back here. It's like,
Isn't that how
yeah,
you
here's
watch
the
YouTube? It's like, oh, that guy made a reference to that. Um, which, by the way, I think I can put a link. I'm gonna pretend it's here. I have to learn how to do this, but I've seen YouTubers do this, and I think I could put a link. So in the future, it might not be here when you're watching this video, but in
might
the
be in
future,
one
there will be a link
or that
over
side
here to your
somewhere.
channel. Right, YouTube, put a link over here. Google, put a link right over here. That's gonna happen one day. Watch.
Yeah, it's like computer freeze program. Go to this link.
But yeah, so you're gonna have you and Rob got into a discussion about Star Trek, and but I wanted you to show off some of your photos and stuff like that, and I
Oh
think
yeah,
that's what we were
so
talking about.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we went down the memory lane with him on just how was what was his experience on Star Trek Destination Convention that I happened to go 2 years ago. Wasn't able to make it this time, but definitely gonna be there next year, hopefully. And so he was showing me his pictures as well, that he did with Kate Mulgrew and Andrew Robinson, and I was
Oh,
like, oh my,
cool.
that's so amazing. And I ended up showing some of my bits that I had. I mean, I had a ton of pictures, um, like the really first one with Max Grodenchik and um, Aaron Eisenberg.
Wow, you're so tall.
And I'm so tall. Yeah, I remember when we took this picture, the cameraman actually had to step back once.
Oh my.
Yeah, no, because generally speaking, the pictures are really like they
That's
did
a
it really.
wonderful photo, by the way. Did is Rob? I know I'm not supposed to, I'm gonna just watch the discussion, obviously, but does Rob talk about the DS9 doc? Do you guys talk about the DS9 documentary?
We touched on the subject.
Oh,
Obviously,
cool, cool.
if you listen to the discussion, he says that Ira Steven Berg was there in the premiere as well, and he swore
Right.
everyone to not to give it away because
Oh, okay, very nice.
he basically swore silence be about the like DS9 movie, so he didn't give away
Well, when
anything. The
we
only
have to
thing
listen to
I
Ira Steven
know,
Bears.
the only thing I was allowed to say that it was phenomenal.
Oh, cool. I'm so excited about that. Okay, anyways,
I'm
go
so
on.
excited too. So this
What
is
other? So,
you recognize this person?
oh, you
Da,
gotta.
da,
Is
da.
that
That's
Garrick? That's
Andrew Robinson, aka Garrick, and I asked
Andrew Robinson. Yes.
did ask him to do a
Oh,
Garrick impression.
did he do it? He's doing it there. I see it.
Yeah,
And you're wearing your. Is that a Mork and Mindy outfit?
yeah, that's a Mork and Mindy outfit.
That's amazing. I always forgot it. I totally forgot. I knew you have worn that, but I totally forgot about it. So, that's awesome.
Yeah, I did. And you know what? He didn't really recognize me, but when I met him, and probably a lot of people won't recognize this person, he was like, "Oh,
That's
that's
Dean
Mork."
Cain.
Yeah, that's Dean Cain, Superman from Lois and Clark. He changed a lot.
Yes. No, he still looks the
Uh,
same
he
to
kind of
me.
looks the same. And I have an adorable picture with Ezri Dax, Nicole DeBoer.
Very nice. What's that on your shoulder?
Oh, that's because I dressed up as Shaggy, so that's a Scooby Doo
Oh,
figurine.
Scooby Doo. I see it now.
Which actually a lot of actor. Oh, yeah, started to have fun in a sense. I mean, when I met our favorite duck, one of our favorite doctor,
Christopher
he
Lloyd.
got scared at the beginning. It was like, oh, what's this? So I had to tell him like, yeah, I'm Shaggy and Scooby Doo and stuff. So he was okay with that. Um,
I love that your photos are of you dressed up as Mork or Shaggy. It's awesome.
and sometimes I'm just a goofy Star Trek fan with Robert Picardo.
That's very cool.
It was fun when I met him. When I was standing waiting up in line for his photo shoot, and I remember before me there was a young kid, just like probably size of Alexander from this episode, and he had to bend down. And I walked up to him, and was like, "Oh, finally someone who I can, don't have to bend down with."
Oh, that's nice.
No, he was adorable. There you go. So I been Shaggy and Mork, and I played a Starfleet officer as well, captured in a Klingon ship, screaming
There
for
you
escape.
are.
And not just screaming for escape. Actually, I happened to purchase a ticket back then with Chancellor Goron,
There he is.
Robert O'Reilly, who actually dressed up. Then he was shouting with every single person, like not shouting, but like doing the Klingon shouting.
That's cool.
So that was awesome. I mean, I have some TOS characters here, obviously, like the extremely adorable initial Nicole.
That's a frame. You gotta frame that picture. It's a pretty cool photo.
Not just to
Very
frame.
nice.
You know what? This is the first picture actually I've got in a Star Trek convention, and this is the first
Oh
real
wow.
ever picture I've got with the Star Trek actor. And when I saw
For
her sit,
audiences,
huh?
for audiences listening, Gary is showing a picture of him with Nichelle Nichols. It's very beautiful. It's very cool. She
Yeah,
looks
and you know
wonderful.
what? I got so emotional, so I almost ended up crying when I left. When I stood up next from her, I did tell her like I was waiting for this moment for 17 years. I was like, and she was like, "Oh, bless you." No, she was
Pretty
extremely
awesome.
adorable, and if you're talking about legends,
Oh, I keep missing William Shatner. That's an
he's
amazing
there.
photo too.
And you know what? He was sitting. I mean, that was like an hour stand up, standy photo shoot for him. And for most of the captains, they always get to stand up for like an hour or something. And
Oh,
ooh,
geez.
I think you're gonna love this. Oh my!
Oh yeah. I love the William Shatner more. There's a fight between George Takei and William Shatner.
Yeah,
I'm on I'm on Camp Shatner. No, I'm just kidding. I think they're friends now. We're all friends.
the one with Deanna Troy.
Yes.
She told me
Marina.
when I was queuing up. She was like, "Oh, come on, handsome." So actually, she called me handsome, and we did this picture, and she was actually um, holding me. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh wow, I just saw my reflection in the photo.
Oh,
That's cool.
so yeah, talking about Shaggy, and I told yeah that some people was
Oh,
interacting
look at
with the
that.
dog.
Garrett
So that's
Wong.
yeah, Garrett Wong, Harry Kim. So he actually found it adorable. So he did a funny face as well.
That's cute.
And keeping with Voyager, where is he? Ah, yes, Mr. Tom Paris. That's the Scare the Doctor Out from Sick Bay book.
That's
Or
really
at least
funny.
try, but at least try them. This is Casey Biggs, aka Mr.
Oh, look at that.
Mr. What's his name? I forgot. You know, he was
Oh,
one of the
Gary.
Kardashians. Yeah.
Gold
Probably
Damar,
Damar,
isn't it?
yes. Thank you. Yes,
Thank
it's
you.
called Damar. Veyun or Shren, depends which, or Brunt. He's doing a
And
William Shatner impression.
oh,
At
very
this
funny. So are you. It's not bad. Those are good gestures.
point. Okay, so there's I think 3 more that I would like to show. Okay, so this is awesome. So I'm gonna leave the best for the last. So we all know John Delancey, Q. So I was queuing up. I was queuing up for Q, and so he does this ticking with
Oh, he
every
does
single. Yeah,
his
his tick
signature move, right? Yep.
signature move, and he does his every single person, and obviously because he's just like, yeah, whatever. And I went up for him, and he was like, we took the picture. He told me to stay, and he went up to the photographer, and he was like, oh, can I have a look on that one? And I walked up there as well, and he was like, oh, do you think it will be okay? So doing this is the picture how it came out.
Oh, that's very nice.
And I kept looking at the picture like, you know what? You're cruel, so we have to do another one. So we actually
Although it
end up.
looks like he's giving you the it looked like he was
He's
giving you
giving
the
me the,
middle
yeah, it
finger.
looks like he's giving me the finger.
or
But
or it
then
looks like he's giving
we did
us.
another one. We
That's
did
better.
another one. And then you know the funny thing is, I was in the line and I was actually waiting for the photos, and both of them came out after each other. And the guy was like, "Oh, which one do you want?" And I was like, "Can I have both?" And I was
That's
like, "No, no, no,
hilarious.
please." And then he just put them together, and there you go. like take it and go.
That's pretty
I
awesome.
got 2 pictures for the price of one, but I
You can
almost said like,
frame
"Don't
that.
tell anyone."
You can frame that one on top of the other. It's gonna be awesome in your
In
in
my
your
future,
quarters.
yeah, would be nice. And then the
No, it's
last
really cool
most,
because
most
it tells a great
adorable.
story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the most adorable picture is so okay. There's a little backstory for that. Terry Farrell, Jadzia Dax. I always loved her character in Deep Space Nine, and when I when I was really young, I had a letter wrote to her. I wrote a letter to her, and I had it translated back then by my English teacher, and which is hilarious. So she was like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes, I am. I'm serious about this." So I had like an A4 size a picture of Jadzia Dax, a photograph that I got from a Star Trek magazine, and I was like, I was a bit shy to give it away, but okay, I thought so. I wrote the letter, I got the picture, and I sent a letter to Paramount Pictures to, to have it to her and then have it read and signed and everything. Obviously, I never heard from Paramount Pictures after that incident, and I always wanted to meet Terry Farrell just because that was my thing to have a picture with her and just have an autograph or some. And in Destination Star Trek, I happened to meet her, and I thought, okay, I'm not going to do just a simple plain shot like "Hey" or something. Let's do something special. So I walked up to her and I was like, "Can we do a Charlie's Angel pose?"
Oh, that's really funny.
And we ended up doing a Charlie's Angels pose.
Oh, she's great.
And
You're
she's
okay.
amazing. She's,
She's
she's doing so amazing.
You look all right, but Terry Farrell looks amazing in that photo. All right.
I,
Well,
I,
okay.
I, I second you on that. And then
I
the
have
funny
to
thing is, huh?
no finish this story, but then we haven't even given our ratings yet. But go
Oh, we went on for something else. But yeah, so the funny thing is, I got the picture, and that was my interaction with her for 2 years ago. And then this
on.
year in February, I was in a sci-fi ball convention in Southampton in England, and
Sounds
that was
fancy.
that was and she was there. So I took this photo with me, and I thought, okay, I'm not gonna get any single signature or any autographs because I did some interviews with actors, so that was my highlight of the whole weekend. And I that's you can see those interviews, by the way, in my channel, just to give myself a little commercial.
Good. We like that.
So I actually queued up for having a signature from Terry Farrell, and that was the only time when I got to talk to her. She was extremely adorable, and I showed her the picture, this one, and she was like, "Oh my God, we look fabulous in this one." So we had a little chat, and she even wrote like to Gary and with a little heart and everything.
Uh,
So this picture is definitely one of the highlights of my whole Star Trek pictures. After comes the John Delancey one. So yeah,
she's totally awesome. And now that
she
she's also now a Roddenberry, which is awesome. I mean, a Nimoy. Oh my gosh,
Nimoy,
wrong
yes.
house.
She's like
wrong house.
Nimoy.
Forgive me.
I wonder if she was Terry Nimoy now, or just she's kept Terry Farrell,
I don't
or
know.
Terry Farrell
That's a good.
Nimoy.
I bet. Who knows?
We should ask her in Twitter. Like, are you called Terry Nimoy now?
Yes, I'll let you ask her, but please copy me on that.
I will.
But thanks for showing those. I always get really delighted to see and hear stories like that, and we don't do enough of that kind of thing on Starfleet Boys, so it's actually a delight. So that's why everyone should go over to Gary's channel and listen to the discussion with Rob, which is not up right now, but might be up. So just go check. Yes, just go check. Just go check. All right, so I think we have to wrap it up because my poor father's waiting for his breakfast or lunch rather. But I must give my rating first, as has become the tradition, because no one trusts if Starfleet Boy is sneaky or not. I must be a Romulan. In some ways, it's always a game of chess. But I give this episode a 7. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a solid episode. I did think that there were like some issues that apparently, just I didn't see like the two stories. I thought they could have been interwoven a little more, but they did attempt it, so that was cool. And I just love Majel Barrett Roddenberry, and it's always a delight to watch her. But I don't love her as much as you. No, I'm just kidding. I do. But I'm predicting your rating, so let's hear it.
Well, I'm curious actually if my your prediction will be the same as I'm going to give. But okay, so I have a principle with Major Barrett. Every time when she's in an episode, it starts from 9.5 for sure. So that it can be worse than 9.5. So I'm gonna give this episode a 9.5.
Nice. The others don't understand our rating.
It's not 10 because that half a point. I'm still bugged by the planet at the very beginning. Like they just blow up the asteroid and they move on. Not a single message to the planet like, "Hey, we saved you," or the terror. You don't have to be afraid anymore. It's like the danger is gone or whatever. It's like, no, they just move on. Like, okay, let's get out of here. Like, what?
So I can safely say our group rating is an 8. So it's a good episode. I actually do.
How do we do the math now?
It doesn't matter. It's a rough estimate. But I will say that
so pro.
Fine, go ahead, do the math. But I will say, in closing, I recommend this episode, especially to families, and it's a good episode to watch if you want a little reminder of how it can be easier to raise a child if you bring in your village. The moral of the story. All right, Gary. The fewer.
No,
the higher,
the fewer.
The higher, the fewer. It's absolutely true. Anyways, Gary, this is a delight to have you on. And I hope you had fun talking about this episode of Star Trek, because I certainly did. And I hope to see you again soon. Live long and prosper. And see you next time. Audience, I look forward to hearing from you. All right. See you later. Bye.